everyone. Welcome to our brand new episode of The Business Queens. Today we have charming and amazing Miss Pranjal Gundesha on the show. She is the CEO and founder of intelligencePlus, which is an education-based platform for children. So, Pranjal, welcome you to the show. It's indeed a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So Pranjal, tell us about your journey. Like, how did you, doing something in computers and then all the way starting your own business, how has been your journey?
So if I reflect back on the 10 years of being in this venture, the journey has been quite an interesting one. And I think a lot of people might resonate with it because it's about finding your passion and following it. I was always good with academics. I did my computer engineering, but while I was doing computer engineering, pretty much in the second year, I realized that okay, while I'm great at it academically, that's not what I really want to do, right? So there's a difference between what you're good at and what you love doing, right? When you really do an ikigai process, and I think I'm grateful that I could uncover that. I realized I was very keen on education, training, people, and the human potential really inspired me. And so when I was in the second year of college, we actually started a corporate training company along with my dad and a few other people. And that's where we went out to do trainings with a lot of corporates, mid-level managers, MBA graduates on different skills that they require for the real world. And it was during that phase that we were looking at MBA grad students, mid-managers, heads of organizations, all talking about this need for creativity, innovation, thinking skills, at that level. And I realized it really hit me hard that why aren't these skills really taught from the school age, the foundational years? Because if they're taught that way, we will be more future ready, right? And that's where started the initiative, that the pivotal journey of moving towards education. So then, while I was still doing computer engineering, I was doing a lot of work on corporate training. I then went on to pursue a lot of degrees, including I'm an NFLP trainer from NFLP Florida. I went on to do teaching for understanding at Harvard. That's where the journey kind of shifted, and by the time I graduated, I was very clear that okay, I'm going to focus on school level children and train them with skills that we as adults require in our corporate life, so that children can be more future ready and can be solution creators, change makers, beginning today.
And do you somehow feel that you did it at the right time? Because, the parents these days, they are quite aware of all these things. Everybody wants their children to do so many things. Like when we were in schools, it was the time that hardly we were told that you have to study and nothing else. Even sports were looked down upon. If I say music, dance, they were looked down upon. Everything was study for our parents. How has the time changed?
Been a huge change, and it's a constantly evolving process. When I talk about this need and these skills, I think no point in history that is then now that has become so crucial, because we by the time we were in college, we were done with the industrial era, we were in the information era, right? But the rate of change is so rapid that now what we call is not even the information era. Technology, everything is changing so fast. It's the innovation era. No, more is content very important. It's our ability to apply the content which can easily get on your fingertips in the right context, right? So we call it the innovation era. And what has happened with the information age? If you see parents with so much of information, of course, parents have become more aware. They have become more open. That okay, you follow your passion, right? That approach has come up, though I wouldn't say it's largely the mainstream. It still has a rat race, but we're open to the idea, right? We're open to change and children pursuing unique careers, offbeat careers, and making a mark in that. Having said that the openness is there, I think we're at a time where parents now know that, oh, we need to do much beyond academics. But how do we do it? there's no clear pathway, right? So if you want to do medical, JEE, academics, anything, there is a clear pathway. Okay, you go to this college, you do this institute, you do these exams, and that's where it is. But if I want to be a change maker, if I want to be an entrepreneur, if I want to do something of my own, how do I uncover my passion? What are the skills I need? And there is no set framework for that, right? And that's where I think the kind of gap is. And that's precisely what we're trying to address, that now we want to empower parents not with knowledge, the options here.
So, Pranjal, what does the term teaching for understanding mean to you? And how has this term influenced you as a person?
Right. So I think this term is a very important term, especially in the context that we're talking now. The theoretical knowledge is of no use, and we all realize that. So the concept is, can we as educators, as parents, teach for understanding? Because if the child has understood the concept, they know how to utilize it, how to apply it, and also to question it, right? So if I were at a primary grade taught that peacock is the national bird of India, then I also be open to understanding why is it the peacock the national bird, or is it still relevant, right? Or do we really need to have a national bird? So the idea is, if we can teach for understanding, the children are more empowered to apply them in creative ways, to question it, to tweak it, or to also improvise it, right? Now, how do we use that in real life when we say talk about teaching for understanding? And since we work with the early learning segment and the school children segment, especially the early learning segment, when you talk about knowledge, the knowledge part of education, it's important that the child, like for example, a very simple example, and I'm trying to give very primary level examples so everyone understands that. We all teach children what are herbivores, carnivores, and omnivores, right? Now, but if tomorrow an unknown animal came in front of you ready to pounce, what should you do? How do you know that it's going to attack you or it's safe to deal with? Most parents would not know. If you don't know what that animal is, right?
Right.
You can know that by the structure of their teeth, because all herbivores will have more incisors, flat kind of teeth, the way cow and horses have. But a carnivore, omnivore will have either canines or a mixed set. Now, this is understanding and application, right? So, teaching for understanding through creative ways is extremely crucial, right? Similarly, when children learn skills, or children are learning even values, they don't see a context of where this skill, why this communication is important, why voice modulation in communication is important, or why idea generation techniques are important. They'll be like just another subject. हम question करते थे, right? What is the point? Why do I need to learn satyagraha? Because they don't see the relevance. Is satyagraha even relevant today? Right? So teaching for understanding, both from an educator perspective and a learner perspective, is extremely crucial.
Absolutely, absolutely. And when you were saying that, it reminds me of my time when we were in schools, but our teachers never had answers to these questions. Like, we did so many things as in school that I don't even remember right now. And I'm very sure all of us can resonate that there are so many things we did in school that we hardly applied anywhere.
Another beautiful thing, just to add there, we have to look at learning as interdisciplinary. Learning cannot be isolated. This is history, this is geography, this is economics, because they're all connected in some way, right?
Right.
So if we look at interdisciplinary learning, children have a more holistic understanding of where and how I can apply this and why is it important. And then learning becomes more meaningful, relevant, and applicable. So that's another segment when we talk about teaching for understanding.
That's wonderful. Okay, so tell me one more thing. In your profile, I saw that you have got more than 57 international awards. So how do you attribute to this to your success? And what actually made you to read that? Did you ever imagine that, I'll reach somewhere here? What actually motivated you, and what was the inspiration behind that?
So, like I said, I was fortunate to understand my ikigai very early in life, that this is what I want to do. Having said that, when you start a company and what it is now 10 years later, it's evolved. The ideas have evolved, the concepts have evolved, everything, the initiatives we run have evolved, right? So it's business means growth, and growth means change and adaptation and moving and changing and evolving. And so that's been a part of it. But I think when you do good stuff, it'll get recognized, right? a general philosophy that we have to follow in life everywhere. Secondly, so the awards are a byproduct of what we do, but so we have two ways to look at it. If one way is the ethics way, and the second way that I would like to talk from a very business perspective way, right? And I think both might be relevant to the listeners here. The ethical way is that you never pay for any award that you're getting, and that's something that, or for the media that you get, that's something we have stood by and believed. And therefore, some of the best brands and the best newspapers in the country will always recognize us because they know that you cannot buy what they are doing. So you might as well feature the good stuff. And when you do good stuff, people will want to share. So the question is, whether it's your social media marketing strategies or whether you're putting out content, making reels, the thought should be, can I add value to my customer? Right? Can I make an impact to them? And
Right.
people see through that very easily. Having speaking about it from a business perspective, I think it's very important that you set goals. Like one of our things, we have a Limca book of record to our credit. A lot of our children have gone on to speak ahead at TED Talks and patents and all of these. It's very important that even as a company, we set certain goals. One thing that we have kept as a very core philosophy at our work, because we're talking about innovation and innovation skills for children, which means हमें यही चीज अपने company के लिए भी use करनी है, right? So we always think that when we start a new initiative, can it be the first of its kind? Can it be the largest? Can it be a unique in certain category? Because that becomes your USP, and that's where no competitor comes in, right? So
Right.
that's always been. So we host India's largest ideation and innovation challenge for school children. It was the first of its kind in the country and now one of the largest. Of course, there are many more players in the last 6 years, but we're still the largest. So that's always going to be the USP, the first moving advantage. So whenever we start a new initiative, we make sure that कोई एक category में at least it's creating the best in its space, and that helps us get recognized also, right? Because people know that it's not just another thing, it's unique in its own way. And that uniqueness kind of gives you the right attention, eyeballs, and that becomes your USP. So that niche, can you make it special in some way, is what drives us.
Right, right. And I completely agree with it. When I work with women entrepreneurs growing their business, I always tell them, if you're not able to grow your sales, grow your revenue, the best thing you can do is to narrow down. Because, most of the times they feel that broader is better, because if it is broader, we are going to get better sales, more revenue, more clients. But it is the other way around. When you narrow it down, you actually grow it up. So having said that, what are the strategies that you use to scale it up to 40,000 plus children?
The first thing is create a USP. So when you think about what is my product, what can be its USP, right? It could be anything. It could be in scale, it could be in size, it could be first, largest, cheapest, most affordable, whatever it is. But I think that is the USP. Second is to, so like for example, when we started our work with schools across the country, first we started with the Pune market, right? That's where we are based from. Then we went to Maharashtra the next year. The third year we went across India. And then, so we've been adding cities slowly, slowly. So it's been one unique offering which we've been scaling for a long time. Of course, beyond that, we have multiple initiatives, but I remember one of our, experts who had come in for one of our sessions. He was the head of Reliance Innovation, and he was coming and speaking to our students here. And he said, at Reliance, when we build for scale, which means we start with the mindset that if we have to reach out to 10 million people, how should our product, our service, our customer experience be from day one, so that we can get 40,000 people or 10 million people. So narrowing your USP and building your systems, your processes, your people for that scale is also very important, right? So it evolves, but that's something that I've learned very well, that you build your systems for scale, right? And then it's easy to scale it up. But if you build for the current market, you will always have to build new systems to scale, or you will be stuck at that level.
Right.
So you start with build for scales. It may take a little more time, but you test it, then grow it, and build use it for scale. We've done the same thing for our after school programs. We tested it within our own centers and then said, okay, now that we are ready, then we can scale that up to have multiple people do the same thing or replicable, make that model replicable.
Right, right. And this is one primary challenge that many entrepreneurs face. They are not able to scale their business because somehow I feel that somehow they lack in the initial initiative. Like you just said, they don't think that way. They don't think big enough that at one time we'll reach a level where our business will be stagnant and then we would need something to scale it up. So thank you so much for sharing that with us. I would also like to know about your initiative, which is InnoVenture for young entrepreneurs.
So, InnoVenture is India's largest ideation and innovation challenge. Now, when we started that 8 years ago, schools weren't really talking about creativity innovation. And the thing is, if you look at an ecosystem or anything psychologically, what is celebrated and acknowledged and measured is focused on, right? So, you have grading systems for academics and stuff. But there was no platform, there was no subject, there's no coursework to measure a child's or recognize or celebrate these skills. So parents and school system is obviously not going to focus on that, right? That's when we said we need a challenge at the national level which celebrates that. The moment you celebrate that, you acknowledge that, you nurture that, people will want to start focusing on developing those skills. Thankfully, with the new NEP and the whole era, the whole ecosystem is changing now to understand that these skills are actually so important. In some cases, more important than the typical academic skills that we're trying to master. So that's when we started that challenge, and like I said, we grew. Now we're working with about 110 cities, 500 plus schools, where the idea is that when children become solution creators of society beginning today. See, the mindset we want to talk about, whether you're going to be a business entrepreneur like any of us, you want to be a manager, a CEO, or even if you're an artist or professional, the mindset that we all need to develop is the solution creator mindset,
Right.
right? So how do we do that? Ideation doesn't come by chance. Everyone, it's an acquirable skill. If everyone is empowered with idea generation frameworks, with critical thinking tool sets of how to go, if design thinking is one thing we teach all our students, if they from a very young age know how to identify the problems that they see around, that whole conversation of a child changes from what can I do from a complaining, right, to someone who can make a difference. That whole narrative changes from can I to I can, right? And that's what we want to shift. And those are the skills we talk about through the Invention Challenge also. Like, and I'm telling you, we have so many school leaders and parents telling us that, oh, the questions you give in the challenge are actually very tricky for us as well, right? Because they're not academic based, they're based on thinking, right? They're based on ideation. So you have to come up with ideas. And so while it's a challenge, what really happens is we have seen school leaders also tell us that the backbenchers are also doing it so well in this challenge because they realize that they can also have the ability to ideate. It's an acquirable skill for everyone, not just academically great. And the point is, it's a process. So teaching for understanding, there's one more thing that everything should be made, learning should be made visible, right? And learning should be made applicable and more important, can we make our thinking process also visible? Like, can we develop it as a process within our head? So when children are doing ideation, innovation, when they're doing these interview rounds in the national finale, children present solutions to real life challenges. Like people are indiscriminately using phones, right? Because it's free. No one really puts a fine or there's no limit on it.
Right.
So vehicular noise is 80% of the country. So children are coming up with solutions to such problems, to problems of fake news, to even small problems of a plant die when we go on a holiday. Right? And then children are coming up with solutions using all the techniques that they're learning. So that's the power of a platform. That it's not just a competition, it nurtures them towards thinking in that way through the multiple rounds. And then once children have that platform, we even have something called as the Trailblazer Fellowship, where they get mentored one-on-one with the best industry experts across the country to take their ideas to execution. So there are 13-year-old, 12-year-old, 10-year-olds starting their own social initiatives, coming up with app ideas, creating solutions for their own schools issues. Right now, that's where it is that children don't have to wait till they're 20, 21 to come up with a solution. They can make solutions beginning today. And that's the
That's
solution creator mindset.
That's amazing, and this is something which is quite fascinating as well. But having said,
Thank you.
talking so much about ideation, thinking skills and everything, how does this all help an entrepreneur as well? Because this is one quality which all of us as business owners must have.
Absolutely. I so agree, and I'm glad you bring this up. Like I said, so many parents also tell us my journey started from corporate training, right? So I've been there, and in fact, that's how we map it down to younger children. That these are the skills we as adults require. Why not develop it from a young age?
Right.
Now, these are extremely critical for entrepreneurs at all levels, right? Because they say, in fact, a lot of reports, including the World Economic Forum, the IBM report, all of them say that creativity and innovation is something central to all roles and all academic disciplines, right? So whether you're an artist, a YouTuber, a manager, an entry-level job, or a CEO, you're going to require it at every level. So it's very important that as entrepreneurs, one thing that I really think is important that you have to invest time in learning, upgrading your own self, right?
Right.
And that's something you have to keep investing in, right? That, okay, tomorrow it could be Instagram skills. So skills is one thing, right? That you will need at every level. And second are these mindset and other skills like ideation and innovation. So we also do programs for entrepreneurs and companies where we tell them, okay, so we have different techniques, like one of design thinking is one technique, but we use a lot of other techniques where we take business level problems, project level problems, and say, okay, now what can you do about it? And the whole company goes through a brainstorming process doing this thing because even the team members and employees need to develop this skill. It's very crucial. And as an entrepreneur, that would be one very important quality I would look at even in a team member I hire. Right? Does that person innovate in his own role? Because the skills, the jobs, the customer needs are going to keep changing very rapidly with new technology, market scenarios changing. So these things are going to be very important for even business owners and entrepreneurs. That you keep developing, you keep investing in learning, upgrading, and take out time every week. So I devote 1 hour apart from my general reading, 1 hour every week to make sure that I learn some skill which is important to me and my industry. And that's very crucial. So if we keep doing that, we'll always be thinking ahead and ahead of the curve.
Right. And learning and acquiring new skills is something which all of us must do. Like, I still remember I have been doing so many courses. I complete one and I start another one. So this is something all of us need. And the times have changed a lot. It is such a dynamic world that you have started with one thing and there are so many things that come in front of you. That I should do this as well. There are so many, new courses, new skills. It is completely dynamic. And then, technological advancements, the coming of AI, it has changed the ball game altogether. So what would you like to say about that? Like the coming of AI, and how can entrepreneurs keep them updated with the latest trends in technology?
I think it's very essential that we, like I said, spend time reading, about, if not everything in the world, at least the best practices in our own industry. Right? So if I'm in the education space, I would like to know the new education policies very well. I would like to know tools of how I can apply them in education, right? If we keep doing that, and the second thing, so again, an idea generation framework, it's called transformation of an idea. The best ideas don't always come in your own context, right? They can come from a completely different industry and then say, okay, you know what, I can apply this model to my business industry. So it could be a teacher training model that fitness institutes use, but can I use the same thing in my teacher training as well? Or there could be a marketing campaign that another company is using and say, hey, this works well, I could use this in my industry. So you have to be open to ideas and view everything saying, इसमें क्या सीखना है मेरे लिए, right? How can I use this in my workspace and environment? So AI is beautiful. I have been using a lot of tools, and if used well, they can really make business operations very easy, effective, efficient, time efficient. And what happens is a lot of our, especially for small business owners, I think the task is we spend a lot of time in our basic operations and day-to-day things. A lot of that can be automated, right?
Right.
Very quickly. So automation is extremely important if we have to reduce our operations time and scale to the next level. Right? And optimization of operations can come with a lot of these tools, whether it's connecting Google Sheets with AI, with Canva, with a lot of these plugins that you get, work becomes really quick. So every entrepreneur should spend time to understand that how can I use this in my business.
So this highlights one very important skill that every entrepreneur must have, which is open mindset and be flexible and adaptable. What are the other skills you feel that entrepreneurs must have in these dynamic times that can help them scale and grow their business?
So one of the first things that I really think that we all need as women entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs is uh, the ability to think big, right? And the ability to think ahead. Because if we are not visionary in our thinking, if we are not thinking of abundance, हमारी सोच छोटी रहेगी and we will work in that much capacity only, right? So wherever if an investment has to be made into a new technology, if we aren't thinking big, we'll think, oh, why spend so much on that, right? And that limits your growth. But if you have a big thinking scale, you will say, oh, this is important. In the long run, it will still help in my operations. You'll invest in that, right? So big thinking is extremely important. Second is which I think in my perspective has become very important every time I try to go to the next level is trying to document your processes, right? Building SOPs for everything that you do. Because otherwise, the same thing you keep doing and doing and doing, and then keep training new team members every time. So the more SOPs you build, it's delegatable and it's transferable in terms of knowledge. So your team member is leaving, it's transferable. You are not doing, it's delegatable. So building SOPs, like documenting your whole process, whether it's schedule an interview, send out a poster, do a marketing ad, everything, you put steps to it. That's very important. You build standard operating procedures. Third, that I think very important is investing time in learning and acquiring new skills so that you keep innovating and learning. Fourth, I think that I've learned the very hard way is that you have to go out and network, right? And where I've been network is you have to go out and meet people. You can't grow in a cocoon, right?
Right.
So and with what happens with that is the power of collaboration, right? Going alone, you can do this much. If you collaborate, you meet new people, you synergize, you look at ideas, you can collaborate on multiple fronts, and that becomes a powerful, force to drive more growth. So collaboration is another important skill that we all have to develop. We've already spoken about it, the ability to innovate, ideate, take your ideas, learn these frameworks so that we can apply them. Because being able to look at your own business critically and saying, okay, this is not working, I need to change this. You sometimes we're so stuck to our idea, I mean, this is our idea, this is our business. Don't see it very critically.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to look at it critically, whether everything that are these is like, rate your own self. Is my initiative like, would I give it a 10 on 10? And I ask our teachers also to do that when we talk about quality of programs. Would you give your own teaching a 10? If they can say 10, and everyone understands and say, no, maybe I'll rate it an 8. So what is the gap? What will it take to make it a 10? Right? And then we come up with better ideation frameworks to say, okay, this is what we need to make it a 10. So be able to critically analyze your own business and say, okay, this is where I'm lagging. I need to go ahead is another very important skill that we need to do. I think the last one would be discipline. Because discipline is something that affects everything in our life, whether it's physical, how we stick to our schedules and plans. If you're disciplined, it'll reflect in your planning, it'll reflect in your work, and then it'll become your way of being, right? So just being able to live by a certain sense of discipline makes you far more productive, efficient than things going ad hoc around the way. And one of the most important things when I like translate discipline into work, right, is if you look at anyone's calendar, right? If you look at their calendar and if you know that there are things kept on the calendar, you will know that the person is a disciplined person because he's already planned his week ahead, his calendar. He exactly knows कि Thursday 3 बजे मैं क्या करने वाला हूँ,
Right.
right? So it reflects in their planning as well, and of course they get more stuff done. So they're
Hmm.
far more productive.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And you talked about something which I completely believe in, which is called as abundance mindset. I have seen people putting all their energy, all their action, but they don't have that mindset. So, what are the few tips you would like to share with us, with other audience, that how can they develop the abundance mindset? Because many a times I have seen entrepreneurs not believing in themselves. They are doing something with it, but they don't trust themselves. So how can they do it actually?
That's a very good question and something that I have, again, I resonate with a lot. I've worked a lot over that. Uh, we also have to understand that, everyone comes from a different upbringing and our upbringing affects our mindset.
Hmm.
And we have to become aware of that uh, I think awareness because you have to even accept that yourself, right? That and not with the sense of guilt, but with the sense of okay, I
Hmm.
understand that my upbringing got me in a certain way. वो Indian philosophies होती है ना जितना उतना ही पसार जितनी चादर हो XYZ, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you need to go beyond that because those times were different, right?
Right.
And once you accept that, okay, I've thought I've grown up like this, but this is not how I want to be in the future. That is the first shift, right? That I have to change.
Absolutely.
The
Yeah.
second thing is, when we talk about really thinking big,
Hmm.
um, it starts with believing in yourself or breaking down into smaller goals because somewhere we need to feel good about ourselves every day, right? So when you start thinking big but it doesn't translate, it's not going to translate in a day, right? And that's when demotivation happens. So something that I personally do is of course, I create my own vision charts, vision boards for myself so it stays motivated. I break down those larger goals into smaller goals. So that when I see those smaller goals being achieved, it builds onto the confidence, right?
Right.
And I know it's taking me one step closer to the larger thing. Third, again, from our own Indian philosophy, is what you sow, you will reap, right? So if you're not sowing in big thinking, how are you going to get the larger success, right?
Right.
And that comes with again, investing in the right people, in the right infrastructure, in the right tools and technologies. If you start doing that and build with that vision, they all kind of synchronize to help you go to the next level, right? So you have to first invest in your own learning, invest in getting trained, invest in the people, the team, the technology, everything.
Hmm.
Once you invest, you can build on it. So an abundance mindset is very important because if we are thinking abundance, it will always come in our way of being. And the moment it comes in our being, the person ahead also understands that, right? कि इसकी सोच बड़ी है. And
Hmm.
so people don't buy because you're selling, people buy your ideas, your conviction, your belief. If every entrepreneur understands that they're actually buying your vision, not what you're
Hmm.
currently doing, they will start thinking, right? Because that's what the customer finally buys, your assurance, your promise, right? And
Right.
that comes from your big thing.
Hmm. And this is something that I also do, designing your vision board and dividing into small actionable steps. Because once you complete one small step, it gives you more energy and more motivation to do something big. So I always suggest people, first of all, fix up your long-term goal, then divide it into yearly goal, then into monthly, then into weekly, and then into daily action. And once you complete it, one day work you complete, and in the evening you sit down, you write it down. These are the things I did today. It gives you a lot of energy and motivation to complete the task tomorrow as well. And then at the end of this week, when you see your progress, it gives you a lot of motivation. And it actually comes from conditioning, because somehow in India people still have that mindset that how can a middle class girl or a boy or a person can achieve this much. If somebody says, I'll do this, so people make fun of that. I have a very basic example. My son, whenever he says, I'll buy this car or I'll have such house, so many people around me, they'll say, ah, kaise lega? So, this is something which is inbuilt in our societies, but we have to come beyond that. We have to understand that thinking big really makes a difference, and law of attraction works when you take steps. Only thinking
True.
and manifesting will not bring you the results. You have to take consistent actions as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, one more thing I really want to know from you, like being a women entrepreneur in a country like India, I've talked to so many women entrepreneurs and they share their challenges that they faced as women. So, did you also have any such story behind your success? Did you also face any challenge being a women entrepreneur?
I would say I have been fairly blessed because I have a wonderful mother-in-law and a very supportive husband. But every day is a different challenge. When you're starting alone, I was a sole entrepreneur, so I don't have a co-founder nor anybody in the family or otherwise in the same business or
Hmm.
in the education space at all, right?
Right.
So, per se, I didn't have any one जिससे मैंने legacy pass on किया है या इस industry के तौर तरीके you've understood and learned it, right?
Hmm.
So I learned that my hard way, right? Secondly, I started this initiative immediately, like for 1 year after the corporate training thing that we started in college. Till 1 year after graduation, I worked on that, and then I immediately started this. So not to say that I had a lot of corporate experience on this subject before I ventured. He work for a few years, then start. So I had challenges of, when you start your own enterprise, you're the CFO, you're the CEO, you're the higher HR, you're the admin, you're everything. And you have to learn all those skills one day at a time,
Hmm.
right? So that's one challenge that I also faced, like learning everything. Okay, you need this. Okay, let's learn about this. We need this. Let's learn about this. Second thing, with the Indian mindset, the thing is that बहू को घर तो manage करना ही है.
Hmm.
However it is, right? At whatever economic demographic you are, even if you have needs, you have to still manage it, right?
Right.
If no one turns up, you still have to do that.
Hmm.
So one thing I beautifully realized is to not take my title home,
Hmm.
right? At home, I'm still a mother, I'm someone's daughter, I'm someone's wife, I'm someone's, babu. And I have to keep those achievements apart, however great I am at work. So that's something that keeps me grounded because for them, I'm still me, Pranjal Gundesha. I'm not CEO of some company. Having said that, I think having a very open conversation with your parents, your in-laws, your husband is very important because they need to see your dream. They need to
Absolutely.
see your vision. अगर हम, if we don't involve them in the process, right, they will never know how much you are working hard for that, right?
Hmm.
And of course, if they don't know, they're not going to support you, right? But if you involve them in the process and say, okay, this is what I want to achieve, uh, this is what I intend to do, you will gather more support, right, from
Hmm.
them, and they will back you up when needed. A third thing that I really think important is even like there were times when, especially when my daughter was very young, right? The question is it necessary? You know, do we have to really work,
Yeah.
right? So even if so, for some people it's about survival. For even if it's not survival, these questions are asked in
Hmm.
reality. And at that time, it's very important to believe in yourself and say, okay. So when I delivered my daughter, I knew one thing that I'm not going to close down. I will do minimal level. I will make it operationally just viable if required, but I will not close down because once I close down, what about my team members, right?
Hmm.
What about the brand reputation, and what about my own confidence to restart again? Right? I want to keep all of that intact. So you might reduce or minimize your operations during tough times, but don't shut it down. Don't go back because kickstarting again is far more difficult,
Hmm.
right? The other thing is, of course, the mindset that you carry, right? So whether it's motherhood or family issues, in-laws being old or having ailments, all these things become major drawbacks for women, right?
Hmm.
It's one of these three times when they decide कि नहीं छोड़ दो नहीं manage हो रहा है.
Yeah.
At such times, it's very important to keep your balance. right? That, like I said, for me during motherhood, it was minimal reform to keep the company profitable and afloat, right? Even if you're not scaling. There were times when there were difficult situations, ma'am, like family members were very ill. That time it's very important that, there are also times when internal family members conflict on certain issues, right? It's very important you believe in yourself. Extremely important to believe in yourself that, okay, I may have not made the right decisions, but I will stick to it. I will make my decision right, right? Because who is like, what is the judgment to say कि सही decision है या गलत
हाँ.
decision, unless you make it the right decision, right? So it's your choice and you have to work on that decision. So you have to make sure that decision is met. And coming back to the tough times, the only three things that have helped me is extreme belief. Second, balancing it. Uh, and the third thing is um, being open to ask for a little bit of help as well, right? That what do you think I should do in such a case, right? Involving your family members, or would you mind taking care of this right today? So it's okay to ask for help a little bit from your own family and friends that, okay, I need this today, could that be done? So you have to be okay and vulnerable to share that. So while you're passionate, you're not all powerful, right? The superwoman category is imaginary, you have to be real, right? So I think those help. Everyone will have those challenges, but if you keep believing and you keep just being consistent at it, in the long run, it really makes it worth it.
Right, right. And I would also like to add something here. You are human. If you made a wrong decision, something went wrong with your family, with your business, please don't take this on your heart. We are all
Absolutely.
human. Our decisions can be wrong too. We are managing so many things. So this should not demotivate you, even if you made any wrong decision.
Absolutely, absolutely. I call it as learning cost, right? There's a cost to learning and growing.
Yes,
So
yes.
just think about it that and let go ahead.
Right, right. So, Pranjal, this has brought us to the end of today's podcast. What is one message or any one tip you would like to share with our audience who are in process of building their own businesses?
The first most important is connect with other women entrepreneurs who've been there, done that. You can always reach out to me and so many others because you will learn a lot more. Find a mentor for yourself because you will learn a lot more from them at a faster rate than trying to go through that same thing yourself and then learning it the hard way, right? So find a mentor, connect with a lot of other women entrepreneurs and learn from them. Second is spend time upgrading yourself and investing in yourself, in every aspect that is there. And third, of course, when you're women entrepreneurs, don't forget that at the end of the day, in the bigger picture of life, it's not about how many more zeros you made, but were you really happy? And that happiness can come from work, from family, and from any other social initiative as well. So don't forget what brings you joy and follow that, right? And I think when you're at peace with yourself and you follow your passion and the joy, I think life is a beautiful journey.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mental peace is something which brings everybody joy. Sometimes we find that peace with our family, sometimes with our work, depending from person to person and situation to situation. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you so much for the wonderful message. Thank you for being on the show, Pranjal. It was my pleasure to have you here,
My
and it was a
pleasure.
pleasurable conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ishleen. It was wonderful being here with you.
So thank you so much, everyone. This is Ishleen Kaur signing off. See you in the next episode.